Hey, I'm Mary, and I'm very excited to be here today to present you our ongoing research project, the growing phenomenon of crowdsourcing in not-for-profit scientific environments. We want to better understand objectives and design configurations. I'm presenting this project to you today, yet I have another 3 colleagues who work with me on this project. You can see their names on the slide now. We are all working at the Fraunhofer Center for International Management and Knowledge Economy. Additionally, I'm a PhD student at the Martin Luther University, Halle-Wittenberg. We will start with an introduction that leads to our research question. Then I will give you some insights in our methodology and the sample we work with. Finally, I will show you some preliminary findings and contribution. So let's get started. Open innovation allows organizations to leverage external sources of innovation to improve their performance. One way to do so is to use crowdsourcing tools to engage with external crowds. Crowdsourcing can be defined as an open innovation mechanism based on and enabled by innovation and communication technologies. A very common way to bring crowdsourcing tools into practice is by conducting innovation contests. Within those contests, you will find 3 roles to be carried out. First of all, there's the seeker, who has an open question or challenge to ask. Then secondly, there's a group of solvers that potentially has answers to such questions. Both the seeker and the solvers can be individuals or organizations. The third role is the intermediary, who connects seeker and solver, usually as online platforms. For more than a decade now, international companies like Dell, Lego, Heineken, and many more successfully use crowdsourcing tools to engage with their customers and partners. Following this, also innovation contests, as they are a tool of crowdsourcing, have continuously increased in number and multitude across different industries and sectors. While for a very long time, it were mainly for-profit corporate organizations, like the one I mentioned above, Dell, Lego, and Heineken, who were active in this field. Recently, a steadily increasing number of not-for-profit organizations enter this field and actively participate and organize such innovation contests themselves. To give you an idea of what those non-profit organizations are and what they do, I will have 3 examples to look at. We have a look at research organizations in the field of non-for-profit organizations. They play an important role in this field, and they engage more and more in such contests. In the first example, the Crowdsourcing Research Question and Science Challenge, the non-for-profit research organization Ludwig Boltzmann Association acted as seeker, the one to raise an open question. The aim of this challenge was to generate relevant research questions to the field of research, which is traumatology. They successfully received 400 ideas, even without any award or prize for the winning solvers. In the second example, the National Top Runner Initiative, the non-for-profit research organization Fraunhofer acted as intermediary, connecting seeker and solver. The seeker was another non-for-profit research organization who wanted to identify transfer applications for inventions to boost the eco-friendly household devices. In our third example, shows the Smart Steel Innovation Challenge, which aimed to discover viable fingerprint technologies for steel. In this case, the non-for-profit research organization was the winning solver of this challenge. The award was the collaboration and partnership between the seeking organization and the solving organization. So now one could ask if there are any differences between these shown non-for-profit research organizations and other corporate for-profit organizations engaging in innovation contests. There are differences, and I will show you some insights about the differences now. So non-for-profit research organizations are regulated by a number of legislative acts, naming the non-profit law and the national funding legislation. These acts and laws influence the possibilities of non-for-profit research organizations to engage in innovation contests. in all three roles as seeker, solver, and intermediary. I will give you an example of what this looks like. If a nonprofit research organization, as in our first example, wants to act as seeker in an innovation contest, the national funding legislation limits the possibilities to award a potential solver with financial resources. That's because financial resources of nonprofit research organizations are always dedicated for specific purposes. If a non-for-profit research organization acts as intermediary, as in the second example that I showed you a second ago, we see that the non-for-profit organization is not allowed to act as platform operator unless they actively pursue research activities doing so. Otherwise, they're not allowed to step into this role at all. So the third example, if a nonprofit research organization wins a contest as solver and the reward is a monetary prize, the research organization is only allowed to accept this financial compensation if the corresponding seeker organization is a nonprofit itself. Otherwise, they're not allowed to take any financial compensation. So these are just three examples of how the German law influences the behavior of non-for-profit research organizations to participate in innovation contests. And that also shows how they are different from corporate organizations that are participating in such contests. So let's have a look at the literature. Despite the growing relevance of non-for-profit research organizations engaging in innovation contests, existing research almost exclusively focuses on the corporate perspective. While research acknowledges the different roles of seeker, solver, and intermediary and goes into detail about the different objectives attached to these roles, the main assumption of the literature in most cases is that participating organizations belong to the for-profit context or corporate sector. Very few examples show insights into the non-profit sector, yet focusing on governmental non-for-profit organizations, as you can see on the slide. So what's our research focus? As said, the majority of existing studies on crowdsourcing processes and outcomes are focused on corporate for-profit organizations. Hence, we know little about the applicability of crowdsourcing for the non-for-profit sector. Therefore, our research aims to shed light on the crowdsourcing phenomenon within not-for-profit research organizations by identifying underlying objectives as well as design configurations of such innovation contests. Our two resulting research questions are: what are the strategic and operational objectives for not-for-profit research organizations to participate as seeker, solver, or intermediary? Second question: how do the design configurations of innovation contests suitable for not-for-profit research organizations look like? Let's have a look into our methodology and sample. Our sample consists of 30 innovation contests with at least one participating not-for-profit research organization. We follow the multiple case study approach. First, we conduct within case analysis to understand objectives and processes of the innovation contest and motivations to engage. Second step is to do a cross-case analysis to identify commonalities and differences. We are currently collecting and evaluating corporate documents of contests and did some exploratory interviews. In the next phase of our project, we will conduct semi-structured interviews with employees of the corresponding research organizations participating in those contests, as well as other stakeholders who were involved in such contests. To give you a better understanding of what our sample looks like, here are some insights. First of all, the host countries of seekers in more than half of the cases were located in Germany. Though we also look at contests with seekers from other European countries, the US, Canada, and China. The scientific field in which the contest took place was engineering and technology in half of the cases. Medical health science was the second biggest field. We have identified non-for-profit research organizations acting as seeker, solver, intermediary, as well as taking on multiple roles. Last but not least, the innovation contest award structure. Only in 3 contests, financial prizes without any specific purpose were awarded to the winning solver. In the other cases, financial awards were dedicated to a specific purpose, like for example, travel budget. Some awards offered the possibility of collaboration between the seeker and the winning solver. We have some material prizes as well as awards and the possibility to get a job offer in the seeking company. What's most obvious is that compared to innovation contests performed by for-profit corporate organizations, financial awards play a very subdominant role. Let's have a look into our preliminary findings and contribution. As I said before, we are rather at the beginning of a research project and currently in the phase of preparing interviews to build the in-depth case study. The findings I present you today are mainly based on the analysis of corporate documents and aim to identify strategic and operational objectives. With our first research question, we ask, what are the strategic and operational objectives for not-for-profit research organizations to participate as seeker, solver, or intermediary in crowdsourcing innovation contests? Our first results show strategic and operational goals on the operational level of non-for-profit research organizations. As financial incentives do not play an important role in this field, it is not surprisingly, yet in contrast to existing literature, that the objectives derived by the organizations mainly focus on the possibility to foster collaboration and to bring technologies and knowledge into practice. Some non-for-profit research organizations have a very clear vision of what they want to achieve in innovation contests, dealing with the legal constraints. Even without financial rewards, the effect of visibility in the research community plays an important role, both in operational and strategical objectives. We have also collected some insights about the personal motivation of the employees of such organizations. Deepening our knowledge with the interviews to come, we will challenge the fit between personal objectives and organizational objectives and how well these work together. That will also influence our understanding of the design configurations of such contests. To sum it up, with our study, we aim to contribute to the growing discussion of innovation contests as crowdsourcing tool, but considering the specifics of the non-for-profit research organizations. Also, we would like to give some guidance for practitioners in this field. Generally speaking, we observe a growing practical relevance for the not-for-profit research organizations engaging in crowdsourcing tools such as innovation contests. We find diverse objectives to engage in innovation contests, yet legal constraints set very narrow limits to the design of such innovation contests. This results in diverging incentive structures compared to the corporate crowdsourcing tools that have to be taken into account when thinking of design configurations for the non-for-profit sector. We aim to contribute to both research and practice. We want to extend the ongoing research discussion on incentives and motivation of crowdsourcing tools such as innovation contests. Also, we want to shed light on the role of not-for-profit research organizations in this context. For practitioners, we want to give guidance how to use crowdsourcing methods such as innovation contests, considering the legal constraints. So, here we are at the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and please feel free to contact us for further discussion. Thank you.